Mahantesh Sabarad, who's joining us on the show. A very good afternoon to you, Mahantesh. And what a right time for you to join the show, given the fact that the Nifty has once again reclaimed 22,400 mark. You have sectors actually supporting the ones that were down and out through the course of the day are now supporting. In fact, FMCG sector, like I flagged off, it's at its day's highest point. What's about the sector that is striking the most at this point in time to you?
I think the monsoon prediction is supposed is being accounted for, and then we also have that going from a low base, the consumer demand is now really growing up well. There is also pricing traction. So, from a perspective of costing, raw material costs for FMCG companies, demand outlook, monsoon outlook, all these factors seems to be quite positively aligned for the FMCG companies to grow in. That is what is the striking feature. We have had perhaps 3 years of bad performances coming out of FMCG companies, low volume growth being the standard, answer to most of their woes. Uh, but now the recoveries are happening on volume front. Cost is better, and pass-ons are happening.
Point taken. So those are the recommendations and the spaces which are standing out right now in terms of the big buzzers. The other gainers include Aadhaar Housing, which is up a good 10%. Yesterday, of course, had a mutant listing to start with, then picked up pace, and then overnight, of course, we know that Akash Bansali has actually added positions on that one. Mankind Pharma continues to be very volatile right now. It's down about 5%. It did allude to the fact that there is this 7,500 crore enabling resolution that they have taken to be ready for any sort of small or big acquisition. And they said that Bharat Serum acquisition is just a matter of speculation, nothing right now on the table. So that's the commentary. But since we were talking about the rural recovery and Mahantesh was pointing out the kind of weather updates that we have got, let's take it across to the IMD itself and hear out what they have to say about the progress of the monsoon.
Regarding Andaman and Nicobar, the monsoon is likely to onset by 19th of May over South Andaman Sea adjoining Southeast Bay of Bengal and Nicobar Islands. And after that, yesterday IMD has issued the monsoon onset forecast for Kerala. So that forecast has been is to be on 31st of May. Obviously, there is a model error of plus minus 4 days inherent there. So monsoon is likely to be onset over Kerala by 31st May with a model error of plus minus 4 days. So if we look past 3 years data, so monsoon has made its onset by 2 to 3 days prior to the IMD forecast over Kerala.
All right, so that is the IMD spokesperson talking to us. But Kunal, markets at the day's highest point as we speak. But what are some of the BTST ideas that you can share with our viewers for now?
Yeah, so I think in terms of BTST trade, I'll go with two buy calls. Ircon is the first stock which I would suggest as a buy. Very interesting chart. The stock coming back into a breakout mode or just nearing a breakout mode on the daily time frame. So would suggest a target of 275. Stop loss could be kept at 250. And Manappuram Finance is showing a very good recovery over the last 3 to 4 days. It's recovered from 170, 879 to almost 184 plus levels today. So expecting a follow-through up move, 190 as a target, stop loss at 179.
Right, and Naresh, what are your BTST ideas? All buys, is it?
A revised view. First is a buy on LIC housing. It's very large volumes today in a breakout. Stop loss now at 647, target price of 670. Second is a buy on Reliance Industries, recovering from the 2800 mark yet again. A revised stop loss at 2830, target price of 2900.
Point taken. In the meantime, there's a good amount of recovery on the bank nifty as well. HDFC Bank has moved into the green. It's up around 1.5%. Kotak Mahindra Bank is doing quite okay. Losses on SBI also have almost halved. At one point of time, it was down 2%. Now it's trading with a cut of almost 1%. So decent amount of traction on the banking names as well. But the biggest traction today clearly single-handedly is in the industrial space. And I'm using it broadly, industrials plus infrastructure. So apart from Honeywell, HAL, there's Titagarh Wagons, there's Schaeffler India, there's Kirloskar Pneumatic, there's Happy Forgings, Texmac Rail, all of these stocks are up at least 5% and above. Within this entire space, Mahantesh, auto OEMs, manufacturing, industrials, capital goods, tell us 1 to 2 top ideas that you still think have value on the table.
So you should be looking at within the industrial space, the auto component space that are likely to do well. Connected to them is actually I would actually name the services sector connected to that, because within the services space for automobile engineering there is a lot of research activity, connected systems kind of activity, which is software development activity that is happening in and around auto components as well as auto OEM. So both these spaces look quite good. And again, within the industrial space, sometime back I had suggested that the power generation space itself is now likely to see an uptick, right? Because there has been a period of a little underinvestment in the power generation sector, particularly on the thermal side. So you'll have related ancillaries space starting to do well. You would have observed that some of these capital goods product companies actually doing well, be it the pumps, large pump makers to Thermax like on the environmental control side. So these related ancillaries industrial space will start really doing well.
Right. Let's take a look at a deeper look at what the markets are doing at this point in time. Steady recovery coming in for the benchmark indices. Let me mark some of the counters which have actually seen some sort of a price volume breakout through the course of the day, and there are a handful of them. One of them is definitely Axis Bank. Over the last few minutes also seen good uptick. You have Bharti Airtel that has seen a price volume breakout. This one has hit a fresh record high level in today's trading session. You have a lot of brokerages coming out and upgrading their target price for Bharti Airtel. You have ICICI Bank, Infosys, JSW Steel. Apart from that, you have 3M India, one of the counters that actually hit an intraday price volume breakout as well. So take a look at what 3M India is doing at this point in time as well. What about some of these tire names actually, Kunal? Apollo Tires, this one actually saw a good upgrade coming in from most of the brokerages post its earnings, as well as you have Balkrishna Industries also that is standing out today.
So Balkrishna was one of the picks in the morning which I had given, expecting that the stock would probably come into a breakout mode. Now, interestingly, the stock has this odd tendency that whenever it gets into a trending breakout, specifically on the daily weekly charts, it comes back and retests the previous highs for itself. There have been many occasions when the stock, once it's broken past about the previous highs, has moved up by a margin of 20 to 30% in a matter of 3 to 6 months post that. So I would believe that the stock could probably be in line of such kind of a strong uptrend. So I think it's currently placed at 2400, 2500 plus mark so far. It's done pretty well for itself today. I think 3-4% up so far. But I believe that the stock should be in for breaking past about the previous highs of 2800. So even as a positional play, I believe that this is a very good chart to look out for Balkrishna Industries, and would look out for 2800 plus as a positional target.
Okay, Balkrishna Industries is a good stock to look at within the sector, but while the rest of the market has actually moved on, Maruti still continues to be in the slow lane. It's down about 2%. Let me actually bring on Sumit Chaturvedi to join us, because he did talk about a story wherein the government was not looking at any additional SOPs for hybrid cars, which would mean a bit of a negative news for Maruti, because they have been looking at expanding their hybrid portfolio. Sumit, tell us what exactly would be the implications and what's the government plan now?
Well, if we divide Indian OEMs, automakers, in two parts, Tata Motors and Mahindra, they're primarily focused on electric cars, pushing them, creating charging infrastructure. On the other hand, players like Honda, Hyundai, Toyota and Maruti Suzuki, they are mostly focusing on hybrid cars that run both on petrol and electric motor. So what was happening, that currently their hybrid car sales are increasing, but so Nitin Gadkari, Transport Minister, had proposed that the taxes on such vehicles should be brought down from 28% to around 5%. But Finance Ministry is not in favor of such a proposal. Well, clearly it is something that will not go in favor of India's homegrown automakers, Tata Motors and Mahindra, that are focused more on electric vehicles. We know that electric vehicle is something that government has been pushing for, more environment friendly and fuel saving also. But Japanese automakers they're focused more on hybrid cars. So it's clearly not a good news for them. It's good news for Tata Motors and Mahindra that are focused more on the electric vehicles. So this proposal may not be taken up at the next GST Council meeting. as we understand from the sources, and that is why it may not find favor with the government and who will not give concessions to hybrid car. Just to put things into perspective, Maruti Suzuki, when it is targeting 30 million target by 2030 of cars sold, 25% it is targeting of hybrid vehicles, which will be achieving, but not with the government support, it seems. And clearly it's going to come a time when electric vehicles are going to be mainstay or will be pushed more by the government side.
Okay, point taken. But I think, Kunal, I don't know if you called it already or you saw this coming, because we were just discussing earlier yesterday as well that the FII shorts position is at the highest that we have seen in 12 years. And every time that level is, kind of struck, it forms a very strong bottom. And from there, we just go towards the record high level. Are we going to follow that textbook this time around?
Call it some grey hair or some experience.
Some grey hair.
But I strongly believe that, yes, it's a very strong indication. So, we look out for indicators which are trending, which are contra. This is one of the biggest contra indicators which is played out in the markets. And we're not talking of a time frame of, an intraday position in short term. We are looking at a 12 to 15 year kind of a time frame horizon. That's a classical kind of a sign that whenever you see the, FII short positions being at the highest, so whether it was in 2013, I think it was in April 2013, 2020, March, we all know what transpired there. 2022, I think the month of February, if I'm not wrong, 23, twice we saw the FII positions being on the much higher side in the month of March as well as in the month of October. And on all of those occasions, the indices have not just bottomed out. So it's not just a bottoming out of the index, but it's a V-shaped rally, a V-shaped recovery. And the good part so far is that we've never retested those lows which has been made after such kind of a massive short position built up from the FII. So the context of the data is very significant, and given the way the markets are situated right now, the elections, events and the uncertainty around, I would probably believe that this could be a similar kind of a data point which we may be discussing, say 6 months from now, that the markets have formed a major bottom for itself and we could be in for a much more bigger and a V-shaped rally. Today could just be a trailer.
It could just be a trailer, given the fact that we've seen a spectacular rally in the markets. We have reclaimed the 22,400 mark, firmly above that mark at this point in time for Nifty. But take a look at what's happening with Mahindra & Mahindra. Now the stock is perched at about 3% up move, and the management is expecting a 5% growth in the farm equipment segment is what they're saying for now, though they're saying that they will go ahead and review it later on. And not just that, the other commentary coming in from M&M management is the fact that they will look to launch the electric SUV portfolio between January and March. That is definitely next year. But for now, the street is taking a note of the 5% growth in the farm equipment segment. And no doubt the company say they'll review it later. So looks like, yes, like even Mahantesh was talking about it, FMCG segment is seeing a good uptake, hoping for a good monsoon. And so is the M&M management.
Yeah, because tractor was a pain point and the entire industry was seeing quite a bit of decline in the year gone by, and we were waiting by to hear what kind of growth outlook they give for the industry. It's a positive number coming in and a decent number at that of 5% growth. The street was expecting maybe they'll say 0 to 2, 0 to 5. They've actually come out with the 5% to begin with, and there's a possibility of a positive review, even a negative review. But given the kind of progress that we have seen on monsoon and the commentary coming in on rural recovery, whether it was the Dabur, a Marico and Asian Paints, pick up any of the FMCG majors, and people who have their nerves on the ground to pick up what's exactly happening, all have been talking about a recovery, and that is clearly playing out for M&M as well. And I think it will have an impact on the vehicle financiers as well, right? The likes of Shriram Transport, even Ashok Leyland for that matter, people who have a lot of, presence in the rural side of the business. Within the, lenders, Kunal, anything that comes to mind in terms of the NBFC space that you would want to make a recommendation for?
So Chola Finance is something which is interesting. That stock has come back into a breakout mode, and what I like about the charts is not just a breakout, but I think it's a relative strength across the space. We're at a point where names like L&T Finance, etc., I think many of these stocks have shown signs of huge underperformance. Chola Finance, on the other hand, has been managing to hold on to its key support points. So I think that's a remarkable sign of an outperformance for the stock, coming back about the 1100 mark. I think just yesterday or day before, the stock was almost at 1030, 40 levels. So that again indicates that this could be a strong case of an outperformance for Chola Finance.
All right, so that's the take coming in on Chola Finance. And yes, M&M at the day's highest point. At this point in time, we have V-Guard earnings also flashing in the bottom of the screen. Good growth coming in on a year-on-year basis for that particular counter. 44.5% uptick coming in for V-Guard, for PAT, as well as the EBITDA has also seen a healthy uptick right now. Mahantesh, coming to you, and what do you make of all of these NBFC companies? Because today you had the government officials that met with representatives from the NBFCs as well as from the PSU banking space. What's your take on the NBFCs in particular, given the fact that it seems to be that you have a lot of regulations coming down harsh on them?
Yeah, I think the issue perhaps is related to tightening the IT systems of the entire banking sector. We have had these past issues with both HDFC Bank and Kotak, the larger banks to name with. So NBFCs are also not immune to breaches of in their system. So probably it is related to that and not necessarily related to any business operations and regulations thereof. I'll not be worried when it comes to the regulations related to systems and practices. If there are regulations that tighten provisioning norms, if there are regulations that restrict business growth, if there are regulations which talk about capital infusion restrictions, particularly NBFCs have a huge appetite for capital consumption. Therefore, if those kind of regulations are getting talked about, then perhaps the sector might face a lot of headwinds ahead. Otherwise, given the overall outlook that we are going to see starting with the monsoons, the fact is that most of the NBFCs will be wanting to grow their business quite sharply. And with the fact that we will perhaps see interest rates softening ahead, they will be better, tasked with with capital raising activities now to capture that growth when the interest rates start falling. Because if they lock in their interests, in the form of the cost of capital now at lower rates, they should be able to enjoy good volume traction. And even if the spreads sort of start coming down, they will have a good volume tractions coming in.
Right, so that's the take coming in on the NBFCs. Thank you so much, Mahantesh, for joining us on the show, as well as Kunal and Naresh. And as we count down to the end of the market.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.